You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group and co-hosts Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com, Andrew the Rock Lobster GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com, and Henry the FLOWMASTER Schwartz from CBOE. The Option Block is brought to you by CBOE. When it comes to trading volatility, trust CBOE, the creator of the VIX Index, for in-depth and relevant information. CBOE's tools and services gives you up-to-date trade insights, analysis, and positions of VIX options and futures. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/VIX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of CBOE Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively CBOE. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the CBOE products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back from our hiatus on Monday. Hope you all had a great Memorial Day holiday weekend out there. Took a break from your trading screen, spent it with some friends and family. We've been back throughout the rest of the week with our usual array of content and back again on Thursday for what is normally episode 2. This week, just episode 1 of your favorite bi-weekly options extravaganza, known around the world as the Option Block. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as from the ever-compelling, at least we tend to think so, Options Insider Radio Network. Remember, if you like what you hear, throw some stars our way, wherever you get the show. Could be iTunes, Spotify, the old YouTube's, Audible. If you get our mobile app, maybe in the App Store, wherever you get it, does help new people discover the content. And then, of course, if you want more content, and who doesn't these days, just came off a great pro Q&A earlier this week, as well as, of course, Options Oddities coming up tomorrow. It's pretty much, it's June 1st now, so we'll have to get the random number generator going this week to see if we can pick ourselves a pro trading crate winner. So lots of fun to look forward to. You want to get your name in the hat? You want to get access to 200-plus exclusive episodes of content, 200-plus hours of content waiting for you the second you hit that button, listeners, as well as live access to this, everything else we do. And, of course, continue to bankrupt me with these awesome pro trading crates that we're shipping out every month. TheOptionsInsider.com is the place to go, /pro, I should say, is the place to go to learn more about all of that goodness. And let's learn who's joining us on the show today. First, let's go out to a quiet, a sleepy, some might say a tranquil hamlet where they have a fun fairground and delicious gyros and lemonade. Yes, it is St. Charles, where we are joined once again by the uncleist of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management. Uncle Mike, thank you for taking a break from the delicious gyros and lemonade to speak with us today, sir.
Hey, it's always a pleasure to be here. There's few things in life better than a Skippy Zero, but the option block is definitely one of them.
Indeed. One day I will cash a check from Skippy's, or maybe just have a nice crate of gyros delivered to the studio. One or the other, but one day I will make that happen. In the meantime, free plugs continue for Skippy's gyros and lemonade out there in St. Charles. I don't know if they have gyros and lemonade on the shores of Maine. Who has time to eat when you're vying against the elements day after day for your very survival? Luckily, he could take a break from his combat, even though maybe not taking a break from being under the weather this week. Luckily, he can still join us. He is the rockingest of lobsters, Mr. Andrew GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. Mr. G, welcome back to the show to you as well, sir.
It is good to be back. And like I told you earlier, Mama Lobster is satisfied that you do not.
Oh, I have regained her fandom. That is good to know. We got that one listener back.
You're back in her good graces. So anytime you're in North Carolina, it just means free food.
Ooh, I like it. I'm going to have to take a stroll down the old North Carolina way. There you go. I hate to alienate mothers here on the network at the end, because mothers, they don't forget and they don't forgive. They will linger with mothers. They will cling to that. So you want to make sure you nip that in the bud right away. Don't want to make her angry. I'm not giving her pudding time to talk here on the show. And last but not least, I think we're going to have a chance to talk to him. He is beaming into us from a cafe somewhere in parts unknown. I guess we'll find out where. He is the FLOWMASTER himself, Mr. Henry Schwartz from CBOE. Mr. FLOWMASTER, welcome back to the show. Glad you can take a break from sipping your lattes to join us. Where are you beaming in from today, sir?
I'm downtown New York right now. I'm actually about a block away from the old Amex trading floor on Rector Street, but I'm at a alt data conference and I'm taking a break to come join you. And I'm happy to be here. And I want to tell you, when I first moved to Chicago in the 90s and I saw the sign, it said gyros. And I went in and I ordered a gyro, and the guy laughed in my face.
That's very much a New York thing. I still debate to this day with some guys in New York whether it's gyro or gyro. Clearly it is gyro, but there are some New Yorkers who still insist it is gyro. So I leave them to wallow in their ignorance as we continue to roll right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Trading Block, the portion of the show where we break down what the heck is trading out there. And after taking a bit of a hiatus from the rally yesterday, we are back in full rally mode again today. Everything is right with the world. Folks liking some of the inflation numbers coming out of Europe. Also, everyone's still just in love and enamored with all things AI. They will buy anything that has those two letters associated with it. So once again, we are firmly in the green. S&P up nearly a full percent, about 0.9%. The Dow, once again, the laggard, up about 0.6%. Not a lot of AI hanging out in the Dow, hence its laggard status. And of course, you want AI, you look to the NASDAQ, up over nearly 1.2% on the day. All this green on the screen means we are back at a 15 handle in the VIX, listeners. I did not have a 15 handle on my volatility views prognostication for this week. Luckily, we got another 24 hours, so we shall see what will come to pass. But 1580 when we kicked off the show, listeners, down 3.25 points from where we were. Now, remember, this is going back a week now, so that's a whole week's worth of evolution on the vol front. But still, that's a lot of juice to get squeezed out and cut off the top there. So, yeah, did you have a 15 handle in your vol views? I looked at the numbers. I don't think a lot of you did. So, yeah, not a lot of people feeling a 15 handle, but that's where we're hanging out right now. Will we be there tomorrow? I guess we'll all find out together. VVIX, the vol of vol, just getting annihilated. 85. That's reasonable, but it's down nearly 20 points, about 18 points from where we were this time last week. VXX, 32.75, down a little over 4, about 4 1/3 points. So they had juiced up VXX kind of nicely earlier this week. All of that coming out now. UVXY 280 down 6 points. So it should be 0.6 points. So below a 3 handle. At this point, I guess they just wanted to go to 0. They want it to be delisted because apparently they are not going to do anything to stem this inexorable plunge towards zero at this point. I don't know. I wash my hands of it. SVIX 2160 up 2.3 points. SVIX, of course, our inverse friend, so you expect it to get north there. 2160. That's a fairly lofty range. I'm going to just pull it up really quickly to see what the 52-week high. That is the pretty much 52-week. That's what I thought. Yeah, 2169 is the 52-week high. So we are at new rarefied air here for SVIX listeners. UVIX, its inverse, or excuse me, its levered friend, going in the other direction. 8 even when we kicked off the show, down a little over 2, about 2.25 points. And VolQ, aka the at-the-money vol, the NASDAQ, 1840, down almost a full point, about 0.9 of a point. All right, a lot to unpack. We don't know how long his connection will hold out with us there in his cafe. So let's start the opposite of the way we went. Let's start with the FLOWMASTer first. Mr. FLOWMASTer, what's catching your eye out there in the markets this week? And also anything intriguing coming your way in light of this alt data conference?
Well, of course, the most packed panel was an early one on ChatGPT. And there was somebody from a couple of hedge funds and somebody from a big bank. And it was actually kind of interesting because, everybody kind of agrees that it's a game changer. On the investment side, somebody mentioned that for a bank to use it, there's a lot of fear about using it to make a decision, and then as they're regulated, banks are highly regulated, they need to be able to back up their decisions with the reason they made a decision. And there's a lot of fear that ChatGPT, first of all, can get things wrong. We know that, but also just like it's kind of a black box, right? So even when it's right, you don't want to have to tell a regulator, well, I asked ChatGPT if I should buy this, and it said yes, so I did. So there's a lot of excitement about using it for certain tasks, and basically people kind of developing their own internal large language models and training it basically for their own use cases. But a lot of kind of hesitation on using it really in kind of the institutional financial services world. So, to me, that's kind of exciting because it means that the small firms and the innovators can kind of, break new ground and do all sorts of things that the banks are going to be too worried about doing. So that was one of the first ones. And then there was another nice panel on alt data versus market data and kind of the continuum from traditional price data and fundamentals that people have used for 100 years and some of the funkier stuff, right? Like you hear about people using drones to go count the number of cars in parking lots on Thanksgiving weekend for the shopping stats, that kind of stuff. And so that there's a lot of interesting stuff in that space. So that's been keeping me busy. But I agree with you. The market is surprisingly, maybe we're in summer mode because in New York it's like 75 degrees and sunny and it's a beautiful day. Maybe everybody's just in a happy place.
It is that sell in May, and now I guess we already passed sell in May. It is June 1st now, so now we've all just gone away. We all have just left the market for the next 2 months. But it's interesting you mentioned banks using AI, and that has to be an intriguing, and you're right, also a little bit of a terrifying prospect because all these banks are, you're right, highly regulated. They have to record all of their transactions, all their analysis, all their data has to be stored securely somewhere, whereas AI has to learn from a variety of different sources, so AI is pulling from a variety of different servers. So I'd imagine the use case for AI within a bank, a highly regulated environment like a bank, would be very different. The AI would have to be, I'm sure, locked down so it can only pull and store data on servers within that bank. So I'd imagine it have to be a very limited use case for AI, but intriguing nonetheless. Again, those 2 letters, listeners, dominating everything out there in the markets. You have stocks with AI in it, you're happy. If you don't have stocks with AI in it, you're pretty sad right now. You're looking at a red screen. That's pretty much the market we're living in. We were just joking for how long now? Years on the network. Man, we're so sick of the Fed. Can we talk about anything else other than the Fed? Well, we got our wish. Be careful what you wish for, listeners, because now our robot overlords are coming to kill us all. But here, we got something else to talk about besides the Fed. All right, speaking of the man who hates talking about the Fed, I don't know, maybe he likes talking about AI. I guess we'll find out. He is the king of Skippy's Gyros and Lemonade. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what is catching your eye out there in the market today? And do you too welcome our new robot overlords?
It's which robot overlord do you want? Do you want the ones that are in suits and that are funded by tax dollars, or do you want the ones that are Chat GPT or whatever? So just kind of pick your poison, I guess. And in terms of Skippy's Euros, I do got to give a shout out to my man Louie. Louis had nothing to do with Skippy's euros, but back when I was in high school and college, I needed to gain weight so I could perhaps get bigger to play football. And so one of the places that I frequented quite a bit was Westside Euros on Illinois Avenue in Aurora. And to give you an idea of it, Louis put my picture up on the wall there, and it wasn't a place where you put pictures up on the wall just because I went there so much. My typical order there when I was back in my 300-pound days was €3 and an Italian beef and a baklava to eat while I was waiting for the beef and the euros to cook.
Jeez,
so
you bought 4 things every trip for me. I put your picture on the wall too.
he did, and so he eventually moved to another place. And in Yorkville, a couple towns away, and I just happened to it was too far away for me to frequent it, but I just happened to go there one day. And so it was during the busy time of day. And then his wife was there and saw me there. She said, "Stop everything." She went to the back and got Louis out. Louis gave me a big old hug. And Louis from Westside, very fond memories of Westside Euros in Aurora. That's the #1 Euro place of all time. Unfortunately, Louis moved and shut it down. But nonetheless, don't get me wrong, no disrespect to Skippy's, but Louis was the king of euros, in my opinion. But in terms of this marketplace, it is nice to not talk about the Fed for just a little bit. We'll be talking about the Fed again soon enough, but it is nice to talk about AI or just something different, so to speak. What I'm seeing today is that on Tuesday, we had highs in the S&P of, I believe it was 4231. We have not tested those highs as of yet, so it'll be interesting to see if we can break through them. I think for the near term, and by near term meaning today and tomorrow, that's kind of the resistance point that we have, at least for the time being. So seeing that right now. We've had a little bit of a rally in bonds, not today, but over the last couple days, since the last time we spoke anyway on this show. So we have had that. We also have, just in terms of the sectors, the main thing that's leading the way right now, we have consumer discretionaries, we have technology, and we also have a little bit of the industrials leading, as well as energy. So it is somewhat broad-based in the rally that we're having today, which is always a good thing for the health of the market. And then it's in terms of some of the individual stocks, the other one that's kind of quietly been inching upward over the last few months. Not inching, it's been footing upwards, I guess. And but we haven't really been talking about is good old Meta. And if you just look at a chart of Meta, back when it's gone from the 90s to 270. And it just continues. It's up almost 3% on the day-to-day. It's just been very much coming up very quickly, but it's not been talked about a lot in the media just because there's been just so much AI talk. And I think that Meta is going to really play into that in some way, shape, or form. But that's just another one to where it's moving quite a bit. Also curious to see if Microsoft can make a run at the 350 level near its all-time highs. It's not today. I don't think it's going to make it, obviously. But over the course of the next few weeks, if this crazy rally in the tech space continues to go higher, it'll be interesting to see where it goes. And that's what's on my radar today.
All right. And last but not least, he's the sweet, sweet pudding of the show. He is Mr. Rock Lobster. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, what is catching your eye out there in the markets today?
Well, I think we have a somewhat confirming low in VIX today with a new high in SPX, I do believe. I have to just make sure here. I'm just looking at some charts. Yeah, we're at so the last time we were above this was August of last year when inflation apparently was, everybody thought, we got a little ahead of ourselves on the peak inflation story. By the way, that was SPX. By October, SPX was 3,500. And as of right now, and we also have, so all of the long-term vols, and I think this is the thing that I think is, possibly interesting for the listeners, is basically VIX, SPX was a little higher in August. But the 90-day volatility in SPX was 19.5. Today, the 90-day volatility in SPX, with SPX a little lower in price, not much, but let's say 50 handles, is about 14. So the back end of volatility has shifted greatly lower. So in my mind, when that long-term vol comes down, it has been steadily coming down since October. The only time we had a real rally in it of any size was the bank crisis. But once again, the Fed basically, when they let folks swap bonds for cash basically instantaneously instead of having to sell them in the market, they ended the run on banks as far as I could tell. A few went down, but the rest of them so far, I guess, are still, upright, so to speak. So like that is a telling vol number. When vol makes new lows, it's always significant, right? Because that means traders, that risk premium is lower. There isn't as many buyers of options, more willing sellers of options, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's a significant day. Like, okay, hey, maybe this rally is for real here. So if you're kind of like, if you're an angry bear and you want to fade this rally, I would just be careful. Because remember, for this year, SPX got to where it was on basically 8 stocks. And I'm going to say the other 492 in the S&P 500, and I could be exaggerating, but I don't think it's too far off, have not participated. A lot of them I think are bargains, like dividend yield wise, everything. I'm like picking up a lot of dividend. IBM yields 5.5, 5, almost 6%. So it's like, okay, that is not an expensive stock. Now, are the AI stocks expensive? Sure. Is CVS expensive, yielding 5.5%? I mean, of course, retail might have a problem because they're letting people steal everything out of the stores. But other than that, I think they will fix that eventually, since it's not working very well as policy. So you got to kind of scoop that kind of stuff. But like I said, like all those stocks, there's a lot of potential for the rest of the market to join the AI brigade, which is where I'm concentrating a lot of my current effort. Like, okay, for the next 6 months, is NVIDIA going to go to $700? I think that's going to be a little rough. Could go higher. Microsoft certainly could go higher. Google, sure, all of them could go higher. So, like everything, I kind of hedge, especially when we're here. Also, hedging gets cheaper as you go. Contango gets a little steeper. So the opportunities for VIX puts to pay for things even better. So again, I think there's a lot of opportunity in this market. The fact that we have VIX making a low, with SPY making a high, SPX making a high, fairly confirming, and we'll see what happens if we get a little more. I guess Congress doing something that isn't totally stupid. The market likes it, and I have to say, it's been 3 years since they haven't done since they've done something I'd say that wasn't stupid, or at least it had some semblance of sense in it. And then we'll see where we go from here. But as of right now, it's still we're not rallying on higher vol, and that's just, to me, that's always bullish. When you're rallying on lower vol, it's generally a bullish thing.
Good to see your illness has not spoiled your cantankerousness. Hasn't taken that out of you, sir. It's still there.
I'm glad I'm muted on this, because I was laughing out loud when he said Congress doing something for the first time in 3 years that's not totally stupid, and the market rallies. That was good.
Good old vintage rock lobster. We appreciate it all.
Vintage rock lobster there.
Let's see if we've got some vintage markets to match. And the answer is, yeah, listeners, we are banging north on the volume front today, listeners. Let's start out there in VIX land. VIX cruising towards 1 million contracts already right now, listeners. Closing in on 900K right now. 885,000 contracts on the tape today in VIX land. So VIX putting up some numbers. I haven't had a chance to see. Let's look really quickly if any of those. I'm guessing some of those crazy spreads have gone up. Looks like we got 42 halves in August and 30s going up 50 and 40,000 times each. Also 30,000 of the July 17 puts. So there you go. There's already 120,000 contracts right there. But intriguing stuff. I don't see any of our 30-40. I assume maybe some of that would be unwound here, or just maybe they're piling in for more. They have been trading that thing in strange intervals in the past, but none of that looks like going up today. But still, nearly 1 million contracts on the tape already for VIX land. So putting up some numbers. That's good, because the ADV since our last show, listeners, has gone in the wrong direction. It's dropped about 25,000 contracts. It's down to 768. That's still a lot. And obviously we're well past it today, but a little bit shy of where it used to be a week ago. SPY also looking pretty robust today, 6.1 million contracts. When is SPY not robust? SPY's always putting up numbers. The ADV right now, 8.4 million in SPY. The S, 1.75 million contracts. You know the deal. 98% of that 0 day. I exaggerate, but not by much. The ADV, 2.7 million out there right now, listeners. Small cap, 650,000 contracts going up in IWM right now. The ADV, a little over 1 million, 1.05 million. So they are proving me wrong in small caps. They can maintain a over 1 million ADV for a substantial amount of time now. It's been several months. Usually in the past, they flirted with that and then given up the ghost right away. These days, putting up some numbers in small caps. And last, but certainly not least, they got the Qs, 1.8 million. The ADV, nearly 3 million again, 2.93 million. It used to be north of 3 million. It fell off. Now they're fighting their way back up there, listeners. So the Qs looking pretty robust as well. Let's get out to some of the single names, see what's lighting it up, and also looking pretty robust out there as well. Cost you 281,000 contracts to break into the top 10 today, listeners. That gets you to our old friend BABA. So we're back in China today, listeners. BABA right now up nearly $4 or almost 5%, 83.5 right now. So China apparently back on. You know, is it a day when China's off, or is it a day when China's on? Usually you'll see some aggressive action in BABA as a result. And today, China back on. All is right with the Chinese world, at least. Number 9, we're jumping back into the realm that just a few months ago was circling the bowl. This was, of course, everything to do with banks and the contagion fears. This was SoFi. It got down, I believe, into the 4 handle, 4.25. Right now it's trading 7.13, up about 17 cents. So a nice run here, nearly $3 for SoFi. 361,000 contracts on the tape for them out there. Number 8. You knew it wouldn't take long to get to AI land, and here we are, listeners. Number 8, AMD. They're not always in the same sentence as some of the other names you're talking about, but they're still putting up a lot of numbers. 408,000 contracts. AMD up $1.80, trading exactly 120 even. Don't see that too often out there, up about 1.5% today. So a nice day for AMD. Number 7, Uncle Mike's forgotten, less heralded stock known as Meta. 418,000. Again, we're number 7. We're already at 418,000. So that shows you at a pretty robust clip today, listeners. Meta up almost $7.50. 2.8%, trading 272 in about a quarter. Man, we were just talking at the beginning of this year. We had that poll. It was Amazon and it was Facebook/Meta, both of them south of 100. And we asked you right there, point blank, which one would you rather own? At least 3/4 of you said Amazon. Everybody and their mother was fading Meta. And man, Amazon right now a little bit shy of 123. So they're looking better, but nowhere near this ridiculous Meta outperformance. You slash half your workforce, the street likes it. Let's go out to number 6 out there, listeners. Looks like C3AI Inc. You knew something AI, and this is literally going to make it on here today. 427,000 contracts, selling off a little bit today, off 5 1/3, trading 34.75. Can't match the hype right now, listeners. There's a lot of hype, obviously, in AI, and apparently C3AI couldn't carry that burden any longer. Man, they're coming for this one. Let's see, on the last month, it's still up. It's still up 86% or 16 handles. Over the last month, it was trading $18. So it has still pretty much doubled, but it has fallen off its highs of $44 just from earlier this week. So it's still very lofty, but has given up some of the ghosts. That's a name I don't think we've ever talked about here on the show before. There we go, listeners. Newcomers making it in to the top 10. That's what we like to see, even if they are all AI these days. Number 5, yes, Amazon, all the way down number 5. 465,000 contracts on the tape. Like I said, almost 123, 122.90, up about 2 1/3 today. And again, good for 465. Number 4, if you wanted a cheaper swing at the AI fence, just in terms of overall stock price, then perhaps Palantir is your favorite. This is now a perennial top 5er. top 10er, really, and definitely sometimes top 5er. It's been top 1 recently as well. Palantir lighting it up. 567,000 contracts today. Actually selling off a little bit today, 15 cents. I didn't know that was possible anymore in Palantir. Palantir has, of course, doubled. We were talking on options oddities not too long ago. I was trying to sell those 7.5 puts. Got busy as we do in life and on the network. Missed those, wasn't able to babysit the order. And then, of course, the stock has just taken off. Working some flies this week out there. We were talking about it on Options Bootcamp yesterday. Did I get filled? I guess we'll find out on Options Oddities later this week. A little bit of a tease out there. Number 3. Yes, number 3. All the way down at number 3 today, listeners. Who cares about Apple anymore? It's all about AI, baby. Apple, 649,000. Unless they unveil that car and it completely drives itself with AI technology. Who cares about Apple? Almost 180, though. So the stock is flirting with all-time highs. Up almost $2.50 or 1.3% today. So the market is happy because Apple is green today. Number 2, yes, the new name, the only name that could vie with Tesla anymore. It is NVDA, 817,000. NVIDIA up, only $18 or 4.75%. 396 and a quarter. The PE, as meaningful as such numbers are, listeners, 206. We were saying it when it was 189. Who the hell would buy this thing? What did we know? Insane to even mention such things, listeners. What is PE when you're talking about AI? AI clearly trumps PE in the acronym wars out there. So there we go, listeners. And then number 1, managing to maintain its death grip on the volume. Again, it is Tesla, 1.56 million out there today. A Tesla 206.60, up about 270 right now. So a nice little pop for them. It's up 45 handles or 28% just over the past month. So Tesla has been on a nice run of late as well. Speaking of nice runs, we have still in the throes of earnings season, even though we are kind of winding down now, listeners. We had some big names popping off this week. Luckily for you, because we like you, hot off the presses, we've got some new earnings move results and earnings season. Let's go out to the move results really quickly, see some names that are popping off this morning and last night. Dollar General, Uncle Mike's favorite, right before the bell here. 201 is where they were trading. And apparently there's no AI in dollar store markets because these stocks taking a beating. That follows on the heels of Dollar Tree, I believe it was last week. They're pricing in 5.4%. They delivered nearly 20% in the wrong direction, listeners. So Dollar General leading our earnings outperformers today by several orders of magnitude out there. So a rough day for the dollar space. CHWY, they were after the bell last night. 29.5 is where they were trading. They were pricing in 10.8%. Listeners, they delivered 23% in the right direction. They're trading 36.25 when we ran these numbers earlier today. Let's go out really quick. Let's go out to Salesforce. They were yesterday after the bell as well. 223.33. They were pricing in 9.2%. They delivered 4.3%, also in the wrong direction, giving up about 10 handles out there. So I guess not enough AI is baked into the Salesforce platform. They'll have to look into that. And let's go out as well to Nordstrom. Nordstrom yesterday after the bell, they were pricing in 12%, listeners, and they barely budged. They moved 1% after their announcement. So premium writers unite. Nordstrom gets our premium, or I should say our volatility underperformer of the day award out there. They moved a dime, and they were pricing in 12%. So, yeah, intriguing stuff. Many more names popping off. We got Lululemon after the bell today. Five Below, so Uncle Mike's favorite premium dollar store after the bell today as well. We've got, a little name you may have heard of called the old GameStop, the thing that kicked off all this meme frenzy a few years ago. A whole bunch of names popping off today and later this week. So stay tuned for all that fun, listeners. You know where to go to find all that data. Right now, the season itself hanging out exactly 100%. I don't think I've ever seen that before, where we are moving exactly as much as the straddles are pricing in. That is strange. Again, I need to sink my teeth into that a little bit more because I don't think I've seen that before. So intriguing. Exactly what the straddles are pricing in is what we are moving, listeners. A rare time out there on the earnings vol front. Check it all out for yourselves. TheOptionsInsider.com is the place to go because we have to keep on going with the show right on into the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by TheOptionsInsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Odd Block, the portion of the show where we get weird, we get wild, and sometimes we beam into cafes in New York to see what's cooking over there. This time, we're going to the land of the FLOWMASTER. Mr. FLOWMASTER, I know while we were talking here on the show, you were crunching the numbers and pretty much finding data that backs up what we've been saying on this show for a while, that pretty much 6 names are carrying the entire market.
Well, yeah, that's exactly true. It's interesting because one of the commands we have is just 52-week highs and lows, and you can do it for the S&P 500 components. And there's more lows today than highs, which is kind of weird, right? When we're all like, oh, wow, market's pretty much back. We're not quite at the 4,300 level, but we're really way back up there, right? But then you look at it like, wow, it's Apple, it's Netflix, it's Meta, and then there's plenty of names that are in the toilet. So I think that's something to be a little concerned about, but I agree that, you know what, when you see vol around 15, it doesn't seem like the market's too worried about much. One of the other things that was kind of funny is in this little frenzy of speculation about the AI world, which, obviously was already rolling, but the NVDA move certainly cemented things. I think stock's basically $100 or 25% above where it was before earnings now, around $400. But I ran a query just to find symbols that had AI in their name, because I'm like, look, if it's going to be like pets.com, and people are just going to buy anything that ends in AI, I was able to find a few, and the symbol AI, which is that 3C AI that you mentioned, that was a really hot one, right? And that's a funny one because it falls down so much after earnings that you still would have made money being short puts, even though the stock's down about $8 or $9. But a couple others that showed up, there's something called HSAI, which I think is a Chinese ADR. There's MARPAY, M-R-A-I. There's BBAI, which is BigBear.ai. And full disclosure, I bought some of this one thinking maybe we get like a cocaine bear AI meme going. So you never know. I think that you just it's a $2 stock. But there's a lot of kind of indiscriminate people jumping into the water here. And like I said, I think it is a game changer. However, that doesn't mean that every company is going to explode higher that's involved. So we've seen this before. And I'll tell you the biggest trade, if you look at your Eye of Sauron button markets, that 47,000 lot of CHWY calls trade up Philly this morning.
Yes.
I'm double checking with a guy on the floor to see if that was a buyer or a seller. It is opening, but after earnings, usually you would kind of think they're probably locking something in. But the other thing you mentioned is retail names are kind of a weird part of this. A lot of them are really, really beaten up. Except then you get some of these names that are up 25 or 30%. I think Macy's was up 20% a couple of days ago, so after results. So that to me is just the most kind of confusing sector. Otherwise it's certainly a lot of interest in the tech world, which we've seen this before. So the one thing I would say is that when you're near all-time highs and volatility is relatively low, I'd start looking to maybe hedge some things out or at least lighten up a little bit in terms of delta. One other thing that we were talking about SPX, right, being near all-time highs. For about 6 months, everybody was saying how flat the skew in there was, basically how cheap puts were versus calls because people had kind of avoided hedging because it wasn't profitable in 2022. That's kind of gone away. We're back to actually relatively steep levels, which I think does actually show you that I don't know if there's I think people think we might have kind of come up pretty quick. So I'll be kind of looking for trades maybe to kind of flatten out and take some gains and avoid some of these sectors that are not participating at all.
I like it. That's a great way to pick your stocks. Why wouldn't you want a cocaine bear style rally in Big Bear AI? It combines the two things you're looking for in a quality stock, right? Cocaine bear and AI. I mean, what more do you need in a name, listeners? Ticker symbol BBAI, trading a whopping $2.08 right now. Actually selling off today, so AI can sell off. It's not just C3.ai and actually Palantir. So maybe some of the weight of these just astronomical expectations starting to weigh on the AI space. I mean, my goodness, this has been This has been the mother of all bubbles, and it's been encapsulated in the span of a month, listeners, less than that in some of these names. So seeing a lot of these names do a lot of living over the span of a couple of weeks, and usually that is not sustainable. I mean, who am I to doubt the great AI gods? We all welcome our robot overlords here on the option block, but still, who doesn't want a little cocaine bear mixed in with their AI? If you want an example of what we were talking about earlier, listeners, that not all names are rallying with the market. What did the Rock Lobsters say? 492 names suck and 8 are good. Well, let's give you an example of one of the other 492. Let's go out to name we were just talking about earlier, listener. Let's go out to Nordstrom. You know, not a lot of AI in high-end luxury retail, and that's weighing on the stock. The stock's looking good today. It's up $0.75 or nearly 5% today, trading 16.10. So you might say, oh, that's good. All is right with the Nordstrom world. But then you dial it back to a year ago, listeners. The stock's off 37%, off $9.50. It was trading $25.60 a year ago. They got it up to about 27.5, 27.75. They tilted at that 27 level multiple times. They tried it again in August. They failed again. They knocked the stock back down to $17. Hung out there till about December. Then they rallied it again. Remember that big rally we had in the beginning of the year into February, listeners? Nordstrom also participated, got up to almost 27 again, 26.40. And then that was all she wrote. They came for it again pretty aggressively. They crushed it down to the low for the year. Actually, that just came back in May of about $14 even. So it has bounced $2 off that low, including about 75 cents of that coming today. But the rest of the year has been just a train wreck out here in Nordstrom, listeners. So let's see what our Eye of Sauron found out there today. And yeah, looks like somebody doesn't think the sell-off is going to abate anytime soon. We had someone coming in this morning and scooping up. Remember, we talked about them on our earnings report, listeners. They were one of our big bangers out there today. We had Nordstrom's coming in. Find my numbers. There we go. We had Nordstrom's coming in yesterday after the bell. They were at 15.30. They were pricing in 12%. Remember, we said they weren't doing much. They had only moved 1%, about a dime. Obviously, since we ran that report, they have moved a little bit more. So those numbers are just kind of a first blush right after the announcement kind of analysis here, listeners. But right now, we're seeing the stock rallying a little bit today. So maybe this person who gobbled up all these puts maybe won't be happy because they didn't just buy them. They didn't just lift the offer. They went through the offer a nickel to get them all done. They paid 98 cents for 13,000 of the July 15 puts. Remember, we're a little bit north of 16 right now, listeners, 16.10. This was immediately post-earnings, so things are flying fast and furious. I can kind of see why maybe you have to pay up a little bit. In that environment, vol is fluid, and you don't know what the hell's going on post-earnings, so I could see why maybe you have to pay up. That's paying up for a substantial amount, though, because the stock was $15.68 when they bought these. So they are failing the first Rock Lobster sniff test. You buy puts through the offer, and the stock immediately rallies 40-odd cents against you. That's not exactly a good look. Mr. Rock Lobster, what are your thoughts here on these Nordstrom puts, one of the infamous 492 that are not doing well right now? And what do you think about them scooping these puts and the stock immediately rallying in their face, sir?
Yeah, I think maybe they were buying them because the Macy's news was bad, possibly. Just not getting a lot of love with them. Because I think they're a little late. Like Nordstrom closed their flagship store in San Francisco on Market Street, which is, I remember shopping in that store. Well, I'm dating myself, of course, but when they opened it like over 30 years ago. So kind of sad. But I went by these. The sniff test day one is not my favorite. When you buy them and you kind of get run over on the first day is generally not a great sign. Doesn't mean it can't work, but I can't even tell if they own stock. It's kind of an odd one. I have to be honest with you on that.
Hence the name of the segment, listeners. Yeah, I didn't see a big block of stock. I'll have to go back and look. Maybe they bought puts and stock, in which case they have a little bit more of a smiley face on their face. But still, intriguing stuff out here. Let's go out to the name Mr. FLOWMASTER was just talking about. This one kind of lighting up the tape. Even a one-eyed cyclops like the Rock Lobster could find this one today. A lot of paper going up today in CHWY. Remember this name, of course, the online. They've kind of taken the glow of pets.com. They are the pets.com for the 21st century. Maybe damning them with faint praise. But you know what? The market's liking them today. CHWY, 36.64, up 7.14, or nearly 25%. So those are AI-style numbers, popping 25% overnight, listeners. I'm guessing they announced that they're going to inject AI into all pets, and thus the massive rally out there. On the year, a CHWY looking pretty good. Today's pop going to help that, because otherwise, actually, the stock was almost unched. It was 29.20 back on June 2nd, and it was 29.49 yesterday. So the stock was almost unched on the year, and it actually had a nice pop a year ago, too. It went from $23.50 on June 1st to $29.20 on June 2nd. So obviously, they've had a couple nice year-over-year pops on their June cycle earnings announcements, because if you take it from there, which our chart is going from 23.49 to where it is right now, 36.72. It's up 13.25 on the year. But that really is all pretty much in two moves, from June 1st to June 2nd, and then the stock was unched again, and then yesterday till today. The rest of the year was literally unched. So, wow, a weird one. All of that back and forth to net out to nothing until pretty much today, listeners. Intriguing stuff, and maybe someone saw that, because someone came in and just emptied all their bullets on the June 42s today. Said, you know what? This stock was net unched on the year until today, and I'm getting the hell out of Dodge. I'm with the FLOWMASTER that it is kind of weird to see such a massive overwrite immediately after the earnings, especially when the stock is popping this hard. Maybe they're just saying, hey, I'm sitting on a boatload of stock, and if the stock continues to rally, I don't mind getting rid of it at these levels, because it was not that long ago trading in the 20s. So they dumped 46,087 of the June 42s for a quarter. They actually got a couple of cents better than the bid, which is also weird. Again, this is post-earnings, so markets are kind of in flux. So take a lot of those executions and a lot of those markets and quotes with a bit of a grain of salt. The stock was lower, 36.15, so they are failing that rock lobster test. But I don't think they're going to mind if they have to let a bunch of stock go at 42. I don't think they're going to be too upset at the end of the day. Mr. FLOWMASTER, you said you were reaching out to your contacts to get some color out here on this massive block of CHWY June 42s. Have you discovered anything, sir?
I did get confirmation it was a customer seller, so that's somebody taking in $1 million, for a 3-week trade. I did look at the 13F data to see there's a couple of long holders that have pretty big positions. One's got 100 million shares. So it wouldn't surprise me if that was somebody that just said, hey, listen, we just made a bunch on earnings, probably more than they would have expected. Maybe they'd even spent some money to hedge out in front of earnings, and they were kind of trying to claw some of that back by selling some calls that they consider to be at a safe level. So it definitely is a call seller, and I didn't see anything over the last few days that would be kind of locking in. So it seems to kind of stand on its own.
All right, listeners, know what else stands on its own? It's your mail. So let's get to it. A little bit of the old mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the Mail Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Mail Block. Let's dive right into it, because we are coming up against it. We've been talking a lot about AI and cocaine bears and our new robot overlords coming to conquer us all here, listeners. Let's get out really quickly. Last week's poll question, Mr. FLOWMASTER, cover your ears. You may not like this result. We asked last week, happy 1-year anniversary to the kickoff of this whole 0-day phenomenon. So we thought, looking back on that year, has the launch of these products changed the way you trade options? Yes, you're all about the short term now, or no, you don't trade them. And it was contentious from the get-go. The moment we posted this poll, it was vacillating around 50-50. And that's pretty much the way it went out, listeners. Slightly towards the no. No, I don't trade them. 53.7% of the vote. Yes, I'm short term now. 46.3%. So kind of interesting how contentious these were. I found it a little bit surprising. Mr. FLOWMASTER, you're our resident 0-day cheerleader. Were you disheartened by these results, sir?
Yes, and I'm going to go on strike. I'm going to have to quit the podcast. Sorry.
First the nanos, now 0 day. Our listeners are breaking your heart. Our question of the week this week, again, it's kind of a pick your poison out there in the markets where you're hanging your hats. We've been noting for a while now that a lot of the big names we were talking about, the top 6, top 8, we were talking about at the start of the show, a lot of those names not exactly exploding from a vol perspective right now. In fact, a lot of them are hanging at or pretty close to 1-year lows from a vol perspective. So we thought we'd put that to you this week. Which of these names would you rather buy 1 month volatility in right now, aka go out and buy some 1 month options? I gave you 4 choices: Apple, Microsoft, the S, so SPY or SPX, we don't judge, or for fun, we threw in Tesla there as well. Uncle Mike, maybe we'll start with you, sir. First off, are you surprised at the results of our poll from earlier that our audience pretty evenly split, but slightly biased towards no, they are not trading the 0 day? And then B, what is your choice in terms of which of these names you'd like to buy premium in? And what do you think our audience is choosing for our poll this week, sir?
No, not surprised by it, because quite frankly, nothing surprises me with our audience ever. There's times that I think that they're going to pick one way, and sometimes they totally surprise me. So you never know. And then let's see, because can you go over the names one more time? I apologize.
Apple, Microsoft, the SPX or SPY, and Tesla.
I'd have to go with the SPX because that's what I do have premium in that I've bought. So I think I have to
talk in your book
to stay compliant with where I'm at. But I think you do well with all 4 of those, quite frankly.
All right, Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, we'll give you the final vote on our polls. Are you surprised that our audience kind of fading the 0 day ever so slightly? And then to B, where are you falling on our 1 month premium palooza? Are you buying premium in Apple, Microsoft, the S, or Tesla, sir?
I'm not surprised about the 0 DTE because I think that's a more professional style product. Personally, I think I don't really think it's a retail product. And then as far as buying 1 month vol, actually, I think Tesla of any of them is the most inexpensive relative, personally. So I think I would go with Tesla. I think the peoples though are going to go. Actually, I think they're going to go softy. I think they're flipping. They're switching.
Interesting. You were right with your first inclination, sir. Tesla, 38.1% right now. So folks loving themselves some Tesla. Tesla, we kind of cheated. Tesla wasn't at the first or second percentile over the years, about the 12%. It was still very low, but it wasn't at pretty much rock bottom like some of these others here. 38.1% for Tesla. Obviously, we talked about it's had a banger month, so moving obviously a little bit out there. Right behind it, we have the S, 35.7%. Third place, we have Microsoft. 19% of you are buying premium in Microsoft. And bringing up the rear, no love for Apple, only 7.1%. How long have we been saying for a while? Man, Apple vol seems pretty cheap, and yet clearly you folks do not agree. No love for Apple out there. Do you agree, disagree with these results, listeners? At Options, the place to go to make your voice heard. If you listen on the podcast, you'll still have a little bit of time. This will expire, I think we got into late Friday, so you got a little bit of time on this one. But we're running out of time on this show because it is time to go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block, the portion of the show where we tell you what we're keeping an eye on for the rest of this week into the weekend until our Monday show. Let's start with the Uncle Mike, sir. In addition to your love for all things cocaine, beer, AI, what are you keeping an eye on until our Monday episode?
Well, I got to watch Five Below now because you hyped me up with that one. Maybe that's why all the dollar stores are doing bad. I mean, times are good right now for St. Charles Wealth Management. So I'm shifting the family to Five Below.
Getting premium, baby. Going big time. So, no, for today, what I'm watching, like I said at the top of the show, watching the 43.31 level for the SPX, seeing that. And that's pretty much it. Just seeing how we react to everything. Because now that we have a VIX in the 15s,
And we are making new highs for the year, knocking on the door of new highs for the year. This could get really interesting really quickly.
Mr. Rocklops, the same question for you, sir. What are you keeping an eye on until our Monday episode?
Well, yeah, we still have the debt deal to pass, so that could be one more thing, and see if we could, print an all-time, not an all-time, but a low for 2023, and kind of see if this rally holds up there. So, it feels like it could be for real, because we're not saying that three-letter Fed word anymore. So that's what I'm looking at here between now and the next show.
And Mr. Rocklops, the same question for you, sir. What are you keeping an eye on until your next appearance next Thursday, sir? In addition to all your cocaine beer buying spree.
You at the FLOWMASTER.
That's fine. I just wanted to go to Andrew twice. I'm going to be looking. I think we have earnings and charge point tonight, don't we? And I've got a little position on that stock. I bought that falling knife. Doing okay, but a couple of earnings. Overall, I guess I'm going to be looking for opportunities to maybe actually buy some optionality, just because the volatility is mean reverting. We all know that. Looking at kind of the steepness of skew, I'm going to be looking for kind of some opportunity to lighten up on Delta or hedge myself out just a little bit. That's it.
Do you have a preference in our poll? Are you going Apple, Microsoft, the S, or Tesla, Mr. FLOWMASTER?
You know what, I ran? We have a command on that, too, that shows kind of where things are versus historical. The funniest thing was SPX realized and historical are both, the 30-day implied and the 30-day realized are both 12.7% right now, which maybe that's some sort of a sign. But I would probably be looking for some Apple vol.
Yeah, I thought Apple would be getting way more love in our poll than it is. No one loving themselves some Apple vol right now. That kind of surprised me. But Mr. FLOWMASTER, if folks want to run those scans for themselves and do this comparison, maybe do a little Iosaurus home version, where should they go? What should they do?
Just head over to CBOE.com/RMA, which stands for Risk and Market Analytics, and request a trial. There's an easy box to do so, and we'll be happy to help you out.
There you go. Check them out while the police obviously come for the FLOWMASTER. And Mr. Uncle Mike, same question for you, sir. If folks want to discuss buying 4-packs of Euros with you, or also want to welcome our robot overlords with you, where should they go? What should they do?
Follow me on Twitter at Mike TOSAW, TOSAW, and check out my website, stcharleswealth.com, if you're looking for an advisor who enjoys a good euro and some option trading along with his financial advice.
There you go. Check him out. Meet him in his office. He will deliver a euro to you while you come in the office. So go meet. It's worth the in-person meeting just for this delicious Skippy's euro. Check it out, stcharleswealth.com, or at Mike TOSAW on Twitter. And last but not least, Mr. Rocklobster, sir, before you go crawling back into the bed, sir, where can folks go to learn more?
Optionpit.com, or go to Money Map Press, weekly profit cycles. Well, either of those places, 888-TRADE-01 Option Pit. Remember, you get 10% off anything you say you heard us on this show.
There you go, 10% off, listeners. That is going to do it for this show, but never fear, we got more content in store for you. I will be back for all you live folks in the chat in exactly 30 minutes with our good friend Carly Garner, holding court on all things futures options. I got a feeling I'm probably going to talk about nat gas whenever she's on. We talk a lot about energy, but other things will make it onto the list. What's going to be featured on the show this week? You got to tune into TWIFO to find out. That's coming up in about half an hour for all you live folks. For all you on-demand folks, hit next, and TWIFO should hopefully be waiting for you in your podcast player of choice. Back again tomorrow, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern for Volatility Views. We'll be joined by Mr. Jam Croissant from Kai Volatility Advisors. So that should be a fun one. And then after that, of course, for all you pro folks, holding court there on Options Oddities. Then back again on Monday, another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Option Block is brought to you by CBOE. When it comes to trading volatility, trust CBOE, the creator of the VIX Index, for in-depth and relevant information. CBOE's tools and services gives you up-to-date trade insights, analysis, and positions of VIX options and futures. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/VIX today to learn more. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions@theoptionsinsider.com.